In today's episode, we are going to be talking about something that has been really fundamental in helping us protect our energy and be mindful when manifesting. And seeing as this episode is coming out right before the holidays, it seemed like a very relevant topic to bring up on the podcast. So let's paint the scenario for you. It's the holidays or you've got some family function going on and you're really excited about this big dream that you have and this vision that you have for your life, and you're ready to just share with your uncle and your cousins and maybe even your parents and your family friends of just this grand vision that you have created in your life. You are so excited by this brand new vision that you have, and you just want to tell everyone about it. So what do? You sit around at the dinner table, and when someone asks you, what's going on with you, you drop the bomb and you start telling them, well, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to start this brand new business, and I have decided I'm going to go travel the world. Or maybe you tell your family friend, oh, we're starting a family, we're doing this thing, we're selling our house, we're going to start renovating and flipping houses. Whatever the dream is, you go and tell these people in your life the dream. And then what happens?
And it bombs.
It bombs. It gets crushed. It gets absolutely beat down with people's realistic point of view, their opinion, their perception, their beliefs. Ooh, have you thought about this? Be careful with the economy. Have you seen this on Channel 9 News? Well, I read this article in the paper the other day, and it was saying and all of a sudden.
Did you know that 70% of businesses fail in the first 12 months?
All of a sudden, you have all of this brand new ammunition that is loaded up in your head with everyone's doubts, everyone's opinions, everyone's fear perspectives over your big dream. And if you had just kept your mouth shut, then that vision that you have for your future, that delusional view that you have built up in your mind that is important for you to keep sacred, has been dismantled. And you go home not feeling like you're on a high-flying disc. Instead, you go home and you start questioning and doubting and worrying and starting to spiral in your head that, is this really a good idea? Soll and I used to do this a lot. So we used to be people that would talk a lot about our dreams, a lot about our visions, especially when we first started in this kind of manifestation world. And we were always people that were very big dreamers, and we were very delusional. We had lots of visions of what we wanted for our life, and we used to go around telling everyone about them. We do not do that anymore, and we do not do that anymore for a very good reason. So let's break it down, babe.
Well, I guess it's about... There's multiple factors here.
So many factors.
A lot of this, if you want to look at it as the most pragmatic and just zoom all the way out, think of it like this. It's energy management.
Yep.
You have a certain amount of energy, and here's the paradox. You are an infinite energetic being, but at the same time, we all have our limits. And if you have a real hard day at work, by the time it's 4 p.m., you just want to go to sleep. I remember I worked in construction at one point, or destruction, actually. I was in demolitions, and my God, I'd be so exhausted by 4 p.m. I get home and all I could do is go to sleep. Similarly, have you ever had an argument with someone where you're just debating back and forth and back and forth, and by the end, you just feel absolutely zonked? So think of it like this. Your manifestations, your dream life, all of those big, massive Tony Robbins sized actions you want to take, they require energy. And when you disagree with people, or you share your vision with people who don't actually see the world like you, which is barely anyone, then you can end up in this tit for tat thing where you're both just discussing general opinions, really. Well, I believe this, and but I believe that, and I think you're wrong about this. And what do you gain in most of those scenarios? If you end up disagreeing with that aunt who has a totally different worldview from you, and you know this since you were a little child, but for some reason you decide to lay out your big, grand Delulu plans in front of your extremely pragmatic, safety-focused, maybe even pessimistic relative, then what ends up happening? Well, they end up tainting your dreams with their version of reality. And if they don't prescribe to a model of reality where manifestation is a thing, which is still a lot of people, then they may very well start trying to change your mind and reminding you that that's not really for you. And the chances of that are so low. And we all have these negative voices inside of our heads. It's already enough of a job to program that mind to be optimistic and positive. It goes against evolution. Evolution has trained us to be pessimistic. But if you're manifesting, you ideally want to learn to be more on the glasses half full side of the fence. But my God, if you have other people just filling your head with all of the things that might go wrong, you're just making that job harder and harder for yourself. And so it's about learning to hear the voice inside your head in those moments where you want to share everything, where you want to compare yourself with people, where you want to tell them about everything that's going to be possible, where you want to tell them that you don't agree with their version of reality, and holding it at the gate inside of your head and saying, you know what? I may very well agree with all of the thoughts inside my head, but I think I'm just going to have enough self-control right now to not express that, or at least not express it in that way. Maybe you give less details. Maybe you sound a little less excited about it. It's your big dream, but I'm just going to pretend it's not a big deal. Yeah, I'm working on some things. And you'll be able to skate through some of these situations with more compassion and more peace. Imagine going to an entire family function. If you're in a family where maybe people bicker a lot and they argue and disagree a lot of people I know have this, myself included at times. Imagine being able to go into those situations where you usually always end up getting caught in defending yourself and arguing with people and disagreeing with people and just not. Imagine you finish an entire dinner with family or an entire family function, and it's just been, you're able to take the good with the bad. And when somebody says something you disagree with, your head tells you, hey, well, I want to correct them and tell them that that's not the case. But maybe you just don't.
Have you ever felt stuck in a cycle of self-sabotage? You set big goals, make plans, but somehow you find yourself doom scrolling instead of actually taking action. If you answered yes, I want to let you know that I've been exactly where you are. For years, I was doing all of the right things. I was setting intentions, making vision boards, and practicing gratitude. But real lasting transformation kept slipping through my fingers. That was until I discovered the missing piece, which is the power of the subconscious mind. Now, this discovery changed everything for me, and it became my mission to understand the deep mechanics of how to make lasting change. And after a decade of practice, research, and helping thousands of other people transform their lives, I have now captured these secrets in my new book, Magnetic. Now, inside Magnetic, you'll discover how to harness your subconscious mind to finally manifest the health, wealth, love, and the happiness that you deserve. No more self-sabotage, no more procrastination, just aligned action and real results. And when you order Magnetic today, you're also going to get instant access to the Magnetic Portal, your sacred space for transformation. Now, inside you'll find exclusive EFT tapping sessions to rewire your subconscious mind to make lasting change, deep dive teachings through the Secret Magnetic podcast series, powerful guided meditations to amplify your manifestation powers, and most importantly, a supportive community of conscious creators just like you looking to make a change. So click the link down below in the description box to start your transformation with Magnetic. And trust me when I say that your future self will thank you for it.
Yeah. So I don't have this with my family anymore. I think I've come such a long way. I have such a supportive relationship with my family, and I don't have any of this kind of energy. But I used to get this so much with friends, and I used to get this with friends, partners, and other people kind of that in our circle when we first started manifesting, or even when we just first started thinking outside of the box. I was getting all of this kind of background opinion. And something I want to say here is I actually do believe it is so important to find people that are going to challenge your opinions, because if you do not find people that want to challenge your opinions, you end up living in an echo chamber.
100%.
And that isn't helpful as well. However, one thing I've really learned with with this, and you know this as well. I have certain people in my life that I will go to with the things that I want to do. And these are people that will just give me really intelligent, smart, and considered kind of other angles to look at, but they're not arguing with me. And this is the key thing. I think you have to be so careful about telling your dreams and your visions to people that need to be right, that need to pick it apart and need to kind of get their point across. I'm so happy to have someone else's opinion, but I am not going to fight with someone over who's right or wrong. And I think that this is the thing that I'm so careful of. The minute I start saying something and then someone wants to have a like, I need to be right in this situation, I'm like, oh, okay. We can't have this discussion anymore because I'm not going to fight for my version being right. It just doesn't work like that.
Yeah, there's people who turn disagreeing into a sport. And once again, it's energy.
Exactly.
If you have an argument with someone and you both are arguing back and forth over something for half an hour, and you get to the point where one of you either gives up or gives in, so there's a clear victor. There's one person who's now walking away as the clear person. I guarantee you one of those people, the person who's apparently right, now feels like they're more full of energy. And the other person in most cases will feel like they have less energy. So there are unconscious energy economics going on here in life. It's the same when you have a group of people and at a dinner table and one person starts telling a story and they keep talking and then somebody else wants to say something, but just as they start talking, the other person butts in again and it's like they take the mic back. And it's because when you have a bunch of people listening to one person talking, they're all sending energy to that person. This is just something that happens on planet Earth. Attention is energy. What you focus on expands, all of that stuff. And there's a lot of people who are unconsciously using their conversations to gain energy. And quite often by making people wrong and by scolding people and creating a sense of superiority by setting them straight. It's a very common unconscious thing. It's throw a rock into a crowd. You'll probably hit someone who does that on a daily or weekly basis. Best way to explain it, it's that old Zen story. You know the one where the student goes to the master and says, "Master, what's the secret to happiness?" And the master says, "Never argue with fools." And the student goes, "Oh, I don't know whether I really agree with that." He said, "You are right." You can waste so much energy and potential arguing unconsciously with people about who's right when neither of you are. Neither of you are because you're lacking the humility to actually take into account all the different factors that exist to really say that this is right or wrong. Because even if something is right for me by my definition, it may very well be wrong for you because you're a different person with 5 trillion different factors that make up your unique situation. It's just most people are lazy thinkers. They just want to make generalizations and they want to be right and they want you to be wrong. And
so I've got some action steps to help with this one. So when someone disagrees with you and you bring up something and you've shared your vision and they're starting to share all the reasons why they don't think it's going to work, why that, you are limited and all of the kind of negative.
be realistic.
Yep. All of that.
Yep.
My thing that I just default to, which is, why do you think that?
Curiosity.
Be curious, because at the end of the day, this person generally, if they're from your family, if they're with friends, unless they're trying to sabotage you, which is a real thing sometimes, or they're jealous of you, or they're, inflamed by you sharing the vision. Because sometimes when people hear visions of other people because they don't feel confident going after their own vision, they're just wanting to shoot other people down. So I think the best thing you can do is be curious and just really understand why that person is sharing that view. Because whatever that person is sharing has so much more to do with them than it has to do with you. And when you can understand why it is they feel like that, it is going to make so much more sense, and it actually might get you to learn something. So when you ask that person that thing, they might turn around and go, well, never go into business with a friend. If you tell them, hey, I'm starting a business with my best friend, and then they say, never go into business with a friend, it's a bad idea. Oh, why is that, uncle? Uncle Sam, why is that you should never go business?
Uncle Sam.
Yeah, I don't have an Uncle Sam, but then ask, and then just keep asking why. And the thing is, there might be a lesson in that. He might have an amazing piece of awareness for you around how to approach relationships, around the things that you should be mindful of. And if you are just curious enough to get that out of them, rather than just getting the belief out of them, but actually getting the feeling, the why, that's where you can actually find the magic in these people's limitations. And when you do that, that person's actually going to feel validated, they're going to feel heard, and they're going to be understood. And if you don't agree with them, that's okay. And the thing is that you just have to listen. And then in the back of your head, this is what I always do whenever I'm listening to someone, I go, that's so interesting for them. How interesting for them. Like, I just keep thinking about them, and I do not take any of it onto me. And I keep reminding myself I'm listening to this other person's life story and their lifeline, and I'm on my lifeline with my own life story. And I think when you do that, it creates this separation where you're not so intertwined.
Yeah, I mean, being able to listen to somebody's viewpoints, their beliefs, without necessarily accepting them, without rejecting them, without needing to debate, but just being able to observe them. That's self-awareness. Being able to see your own thoughts and just observing them and letting them pass by without necessarily accepting them or fighting them. That's like wisdom. I recently read The Four Agreements.
Oh, yes.
And when I read
book recommendation, would you say?
Absolutely. I listened to it on Audible. It's 2.5 hours long. And I got to say, it suddenly makes sense why this is such a famous and popular book, because I've seen it many times before on people's bookshelves.
So I've never read it, but Chris has been talking about this
Honestly,
ever since.
So it's so relevant to everything that we were just talking about, everything that you said. It's basically just saying that we all have agreements. There are things that we all agree to in society. And when you grow up as a child, your parents, society, media, culture, everything imprints certain agreements on you. We all agree this, we all agree that. And as you get older, you should ideally, these are basically beliefs. It's another word for saying beliefs. You should look at these agreements that you have and maybe adjust some of them now that you're actually a conscious adult who can make their own decisions. But the book highlights 4 different agreements that if you just shift these 4, you're going to have a humongous shift in your life. Now, I have to reread the first one, but the second and third one are so relevant to this entire podcast episode. It's don't take anything personally and don't make assumptions. Right? So it basically said that if you look at any conflict you've ever had, any argument, any fight, any crappy situation, you will find at the root cause of it either yourself taking things personally or making assumptions, or both. And think about it. When you're with family and you start defending yourself, like you just said with your example, your uncle tells you never go into business with anyone because they heard you're going to start a business with your friend. Rather than immediately defending yourself, not taking that personally, because it's not about you. It's about
your Uncle Sam.
The person who's saying whatever statement it is had some kind of experience. Their worldview has led them to have this. They're a different person. So it's not really about you. All they're doing is telling you a piece of themselves in their advice or their judgments or whatever. So number one, don't take it personally, because it's not personal. They can't know your situation. They don't even know your friend. They don't even know what business you want to go into. They don't know anything about it. But then also don't make assumptions. Swap that out with curiosity. Why do you think that?
Literally, yeah.
Tell me more about that. And a wonderful correlation here is people love it when you listen to them and you show genuine interest. That is one of the easiest ways to get people to like you, to have a harmonious relationship, to raise your social status. People will be like, I love this person. Bring them around more often, because interesting people are people who are interested. So rather than defending, getting offended, taking things personally, making it about yourself, just transcend that and just be more open, be more curious, be more humble. And you're going to run into so many less crappy situations where you're just leaking energy all over the place because you suddenly you're a victim now because you are defending yourself. If you don't want to be a victim, just stop defending your position. It's quite simple. Just accept yourself. Be happy within yourself. Never complain, never explain.
Yeah.
All right. It's a formula by mastering this and just doing it in little moments during the day. Even just being able to feel that. I can't remember where I heard this, but it was amazing. It was when you listen to somebody speaking and they're telling a story and they finish the story and you have this thing inside you that's like, I got to tell my story now, my even better story to match theirs. Notice the feeling and see how uncomfortable it feels in your body to have this thing being like, it wants to get out, but you're in control. You're in control of it. It doesn't have to be automatic. And yeah, just being able to substitute that certainty, I know this and I know that and I believe this, with more about, tell me more about that. Tell me, maybe I can learn something about that. Why do you think that?
So I have one last action step from what you just said, which is I think that when someone projects something onto you and you can see that it's an unnecessary story, just repeat inside your head after the conversation, if you've just taken on a whole bunch of stuff, thank you for the unnecessary story. I reject all stories that are not my own. I reject all stories that are not my own. And just keep saying this to yourself. You can just like tap on your wrist or tap on your shoulder bone. Just, I reject all stories that are not my own, because other people's stories are their own stories and they're not your story. And it will only become your story if you take it on. And there have been times in my life from listening to other people that I did take on someone else's story. I did take on someone else's beliefs and limitations, and it led me down a path that wasn't very fun. And this is something that has definitely happened. And I really want to just have you be aware listening to this podcast that there are always going to be people that do not agree with you. There are always going to be people that put limitations and lack and opinions onto whatever it is that you want to do, especially when you're a big dreamer. And it is a skill and a art to be able to move through these certain situations and learn how to be someone who can listen, but at the same time also reject and reflect. And that is really what we hope for you at this holiday season. If you have any of these sticky, challenging situations come up, if you have any friends that might be going through something with their aunt or their uncle or their dad or their mom or their cousin, whoever it is, send them this podcast and say, hey, give this a listen. Because I think that you're not alone if you have gone through challenging situations with family, friends, even work colleagues. I think that this is such a common thing that people experience. And I think we all need a little bit more support to remember that everyone is doing the best from their own level of consciousness. And we all have our own stories, and you do not have to take on anyone else's story that is not your own. And guess what? You can also rewrite your own stories as well.
I will leave the listeners with one of my favorite quotes by Robert Downey Jr., which is just smile and nod and do whatever the fuck you were going to do anyway.
I think that's your metaphor for life, babe.
It is.
All right, over and out, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you for joining me for this episode. You can discover more from Mindspo on Instagram and TikTok by following @Mindspo and myself @Rochelle_Fox. If this episode inspired you, then please pass it on and share the love. And if you're new to our world and you want to elevate your mind and step into your best self, then be sure to download our app, Manifesty, from the App Store and take advantage of the free trial. With Manifesty, you can create your own vision board movies, practice powerful meditations, and set affirmation reminders so your phone supports your journey towards that abundant vision of your future. And lastly, always remember, you create your own reality. So go and make some magic.